Picked up enough to give him time to find George Kittle. Oh, amongst so many bodies.
While several veteran NFL superstars like Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans, and Matthew Stafford have already cemented their legacies with Super Bowl rings, the clock is ticking on several big-name studs to hoist that Lombardi trophy once and for all. Now, before we start, we'd like to clarify the criteria. The player has to be at least 30 years of age and playing a position where they're prone to declining relatively soon. So, with that disclaimer out the way, how about we take a look at the 5 NFL stars who will win a Super Bowl before they retire, and 5 who won't.
Fires wide open at the 50-yard line.
Will Derrick Henry. A good chunk of Henry's prime years were absolutely wasted on a very mediocre Tennessee Titans team that only brought him 3 postseason victories. Now, fortunately, the 2-time rushing champion found the perfect landing spot to pursue a ring in the late stages of his career. Henry signed a 2-year deal with the Baltimore Ravens worth a bargain $16 million in free agency. The fit in Lamar Jackson's rush-first offense has come as advertised, and it really just feels like a matter of time until these two actually celebrate a ring together. The Ravens' offense is as dangerous as ever, with the future Hall of Famer joining forces with Jackson, Zay Flowers, and Mark Andrews. Even in his age 30/31 season, Henry has shown no signs of slowing down and looks like he can pull off a Frank Gore-like longevity. We're betting on Baltimore to eventually win a Super Bowl with the Henry-Jackson super tandem. The Ravens are in the mix every single year. Heck, they went to the AFC Championship game last season. This right here is their first year with Derrick Henry. A championship ring is definitely awaiting the greatest running back of his generation. Won't Davante Adams? Yeah, turn off the lights, party's over. Just when we thought the New York Jets had saved Davante Adams from the sinking ship that was the 2024 Las Vegas Raiders, he jumped on the Jets train as it was falling off the rails. The desperate Jets tried to save their season by acquiring Adams in a blockbuster trade with Vegas, reuniting him with longtime friend and ex-Green Bay Packers teammate Aaron Rodgers. And yet somehow, the Jets have been just as unwatchable this year as the Raiders. The Jets fired head coach Robert Saleh after a Week 5 loss to the Minnesota Vikings, and then 6 weeks later, they fired GM Joe Douglas following a stunning home loss to the Indianapolis Colts. Yeesh, go figure. Even if the Jets run it back with the same core next year, do you really think that Rodgers and Adams are going to be able to turn back the clock to the 2014 to 2021 years? This team is in shambles, and no legitimate Super Bowl contender will want to take on Rodgers or Adams' hefty contracts at this phase of their careers. Going to the Jets was Adams' last real shot at a Super Bowl, and sadly, he is now joining a list of all-time great WRs like Randy Moss, Tim Brown, and Andre Reed, who were never able to win it all. Will George Kittle. 2024 has not exactly gone as planned for the San Francisco 49ers, yeah. And maybe you don't buy the injuries as an excuse, but hey, heading into next season, every core player, minus George Kittle and Trent Williams, will be under the age of 30. Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Brock Purdy, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Talanoa Hufanga. Yeah, that ain't too bad. So we're just saying, bet against these guys at your own risk. The 49ers championship window is still wide open. And though George Kittle is now on the wrong side of 30, the Pro Bowl tight end remains one of football's premier playmakers when he's healthy and on the field. So we're still pretty dang confident that these 49ers can win a Super Bowl in the next 3 years. As a world-class run blocker, Kittle should be a valuable part of Kyle Shanahan's offense, even if he's not exactly producing as much in the passing game. It's a bold declaration, Cotton, but we think the third time will prove to be a charm for Kittle after suffering 2 heartbreaking losses to the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Won't Zack Martin. As far as non-quarterback or wide receiver positions go, Zack Martin is as big a lock for Canton as it gets. I mean, come on, 9 Pro Bowl nods, 7 first team, and a pair of second-team All-Pro selections over your first 10 seasons? Say no more. Martin has had the honors of blocking for 3 rushing champions during his run with the Dallas Cowboys. For DeMarco Murray in 2014 and Ezekiel Elliott during the 2016 and 2018 seasons. Sadly, Jerry Jones and company mostly wasted the prime years of guys like Martin, Tyron Smith, Travis Frederick, Amari Cooper, Cooper, and, well, now guys like Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and Micah Parsons. The 2024 Cowboys are an absolute train wreck, and it is pretty dang clear that they're never going to win a Super Bowl as long as Jones keeps himself in the GM chair. Even if Martin were to leave the Cowboys in the not-so-distant future, time is against the All-Pro guard who will be 35 years of age next year. Look, love or hate the Cowboys, few ringless NFL stars deserve a ring more than Zack Martin. And unfortunately, time is not on his side to win a Super Bowl before he calls it quits. Will Taylor Decker. Some Detroit Lions fans might want to see Jared Goff on this list instead, but he's only 30 years old. That's pretty young for a QB these days. And he just seems to keep getting better with age. Most of Detroit's core players are only in their early to mid-20s too, so Decker was really the only Lions superstar eligible for this list. Decker has been vastly overlooked since entering the NFL in 2016. The Lions' hulking offensive tackle, along with Frank Ragnow and Penei Sewell, helped form the best O-line in the league under head coach Dan Campbell. This year, the Lions are clearly in a class of their own among NFC teams. If this isn't the year that they win the Super Bowl, well, we're sure it's coming in 2025 or 2026. Maybe 2027 at the absolute latest. Look, we're just saying, Decker stayed on in Detroit through the disastrous Matt Patricia Bob Quinn days. His loyalty and patience will eventually pay off with a Super Bowl ring. Or heck, maybe even 2. Won't Kirk Cousins. If Cousins was a few years younger, he wouldn't be on this list. But, alas, time is also working against the ex-Washington and Minnesota Vikings signal caller. The QB-needy Atlanta Falcons signed Cousins to a lucrative 4-year deal worth $180 million in 2024 free agency. In a head-scratching move, the Falcons then used the number 8 pick on Washington quarterback Michael Penix Jr. just 1 month later. So, in other words, Cousins is not actually in the Falcons' long-term plans. He's going to be 37 years old next year, and the Falcons look nothing like a real Super Bowl contender anyway. Yeah, sure, they're the best team in a very weak NFC South, but that offense just isn't living up to its full potential, even with that star-studded cast. The defense is mediocre at best, and it's not like they're on the verge of closing the gap with top NFC teams like the Lions, Philadelphia Eagles, or Green Bay Packers. Cousins' final prime years are locked into a good but not great Atlanta team that does not have the pieces to win a Super Bowl title. He might win a couple of division titles here and there, but the polarizing QB won't come anywhere close to a Super Bowl before his career concludes. Will Danielle Hunter. Hunter made the right decision to leave the Vikings and sign with an up-and-coming Houston Texans squad in 2024 free agency. Having joined a team with a wide-open Super Bowl window, Hunter has put himself in a spot to eventually claim the Lombardi Trophy. We know that his deal with the Texans was a short-term pact worth $49 million, but GM Nick Caserio will want to hand Hunter a second contract after a monster first year in H-Town. Hunter, Will Anderson Jr., and Derek Stingley Jr. headline one of the best defensive units in football. CJ Stroud, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Joe Mixon, and Laramie Tunsil headline a star-studded offensive unit too. The Texans are well positioned to compete for a Super Bowl over the remainder of Hunter's prime. A Super Bowl is definitely in the future for the 4-time Pro Bowler. Won't Keenan Allen. At first, the Keenan Allen trade looked like a coup for the Chicago Bears and a giant L for the Los Angeles Chargers. Yeah, joke's on the Bears, we guess. The Bears' star-studded offense has been a mess for most of the 2024 season, hence the midseason firing of offensive coordinator Shane Waldron. And when he's been on the field, Allen has been mostly invisible in Chicago's offense. Meanwhile, the Chargers have reemerged as a top AFC team in year 1 of the Jim Harbaugh era. Yeah, so much for concerns about their wide receiver room after parting ways from both Allen and Mike Williams. Anyhow, the 6-time Pro Bowler is clearly past his best before date. The injury-prone wideout will be 33 years of age next year, and you cannot expect a real Super Bowl contending team to have any interest in Allen. Yeah, hindsight's 20/20, but Allen should have just agreed to a significant pay cut to stay with the Bolts. Then he'd be chasing a ring right now. Instead, his 1-year stop in Chicago is the latest reminder that the borderline Hall of Fame candidate will never get to celebrate a Super Bowl ring. Yep, really sad, but hey, go join the club of great ringless receivers, Keenan. Will TJ Watt. With Aaron Donald retired, TJ Watt's chances of winning additional Defensive Player of the Year awards have gone way up. In fact, it still feels like a bit of a travesty that he only has 1 on his resume. If not for Donald, Watt or Myles Garrett would probably be viewed as the best defensive player of their generation. You know, take your pick. The Pittsburgh Steelers superstar could just retire today and he would still be a first ballot Hall of Famer. All that's missing now is a championship ring to complement Watt's resume, something older brother JJ unfortunately never got to experience. Now that the Steelers have found their answer at quarterback in Russell Wilson, they have officially made the leap from playoff contender to Super Bowl contender. At long last, the Steelers are back in the Lombardi Trophy mix after a half-decade of being an above-average football team. Watt, Alex Highsmith, Cameron Hayward, Minkah Fitzpatrick, and Joey Porter Jr. round out a scary good defensive nucleus that should dominate the next half-decade or so. Should. Wilson still has plenty of football left, and he ain't short on weapons with George Pickens, Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, or Pat Freiermuth. With the championship defense and a Hall of Fame head coach, why can't the Steelers eventually win a Super Bowl in the Watt era? Yeah, it probably won't be this season, but there is far too much to like about the Steelers' long-term outlook. Surely, Watt will add at least one ring to his resume before he finally calls it quits. Won't Dak Prescott? We know 31 is not exactly ancient for a quarterback these days, but it already feels like Dak Prescott has peaked in Dallas. And yet, his mammoth 4-year, $240 million contract extension doesn't even kick in until next year. Prescott committed the rest of his prime years to Dallas. Jerry Jones condones mediocrity more than any other professional sports team owner. So, yeah, good luck to Prescott in having an actual championship caliber roster built around him. Yeah, we know, a lot of money is nice, and playing QB for an iconic franchise like the Cowboys is a dream for millions of kids. But Prescott signed away any realistic hope of winning a Super Bowl by signing up for more than 4 years of Jerry Jones's garbage-filled circus. Everyone loves to put the blame on Jones, Prescott, and Mike McCarthy. But come on, it's not Dak's fault that Jones has failed to put a Super Bowl caliber roster around him. It's not his fault that Jones moved on from Amari Cooper and Tony Pollard while they were still in their respective primes. Prescott has done the most he could with what Jones has given him. Put Prescott on a more well-managed organization, and we have no doubt that he would have pushed for multiple Super Bowl titles. His only real hope at winning a ring is being a backup QB on a Super Bowl contender late in his career. That is way too difficult to forecast. So, bet on Prescott retiring without ever winning a Super Bowl. But hey, which other aging NFL stars will or won't win a Super Bowl before they retire? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, then clicking the like button helps out a ton. And you know, we really appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, then subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.